I would go up to Vegas every once in a while, more than every once in a while, perhaps. And you'd look at these guys who were running, these nightclubs, and they were doing all this sexy stuff, and they were dripping, and and you'd say, oh, this guy's bankrupt. This guy, Paris Hilton's boyfriend, he's over or whatever. And I'd say to myself, yeah, that guy in China, hauling your trash, that's the way to go. And I think it was a very guiding principle to be in unsexy businesses.
So let's go back to your first business, right? We watched some of your stuff. You said your first business was a broadcasting business. Kind of what was that about, and kind of how did that come about?
It was. I won't say there was some grand vision right away. I think that like any organic entrepreneur, it was shifted over time. My interest at 19 years old was I got a radio show on a local radio station. I'm still friends with one of the guys who was family owned at the time. And they put me on Sunday from 11 to midnight, and I had to bring in a sponsor. I had to go out and find a sponsor to bring in $60 to pay for the board op to go and produce the show. And after about 4 months of doing that, I eventually later got a little bit bigger sponsor and did a Saturday and Sunday or Saturday afternoon show. And I guess that was all right compared to the people on this station. But I quickly learned that there's a lot more money in helping people do their shows on these small AM radio stations. And so eventually we built a business where we went out and we mass marketed the idea of, by the way, partially how my father built his business in an earlier era, which was he was a radio guy. That was his side hustle. And he got paid to come in on Saturdays. And I would go with him when I was 3, 4, 5 years old. And he would do a money show. And then people would say, well, this guy sounds interesting. Let me call him and have him manage my money. And he got hundreds of clients that way and built a huge business. And so having known that, and having a little bit of broadcast experience and knowledge, I basically started going out and contacting these little flea-watt AM radio stations that were on the brink of insolvency. They couldn't compete in an increasingly consolidated industry. And I said, listen, I will be the marketing guy to bring in financial advisors, doctors, dentists, whatever, to host, Tooth Talk or the Financial Hour. And they will pay you, and I will take a cut. And we will, prop up your station. And for the number of years, we helped stations, including those who didn't love the programming, but they literally said, you helped us stay on the air, because we would bring in the Gold Show or the colon cleanse show or the overnight televangelist show or whatever, and these guys would pay, and we would prop up these failing radio stations all across the country. I later turned it into more of an institutional business, working with people from one of the biggest insurance companies in the Fortune 100. We had big, direct marketing companies with big budgets, and we were helping them do, 100 station buys, basically building out a radio network. So it was the unsexy side of broadcasting.
But hey, I mean, if unsexy stuff is still cutting checks, though, you're like, hey, I can do that, right? I mean, that's.
I remember kind of as it really started to take off, I was in China for the first time, and I met some people, and I realized for the first time in life that these guys were making money doing things like garbage removal, totally unsexy stuff, and yet they had huge net worths and they were making a lot of money, and you would never know it to look at them. But they were doing unsexy stuff. And then at the same time, I would go up to Vegas every once in a while, more than every once in a while, perhaps. And you'd look at these guys who were running, these nightclubs, and they were doing all this sexy stuff, and they were dripping, and you'd say, oh, this guy's bankrupt. This guy, Paris Hilton's boyfriend, he's over or whatever. And I'd say to myself, yeah, that guy in China, hauling your trash, that's the way to go. And I think it was a very guiding principle to be in unsexy businesses.
Yeah. So one of our previous guests, he had the saying that if you sell to the classes, you'll live with the masses. Yeah. If you sell to the masses, you'll live with the classes. And that's really resonated. That totally makes sense. I mean, you have to, either go huge or go very niche. That's the only two ways you can do it. And, like you said, the guys that were, all for show run the nightclubs in Vegas, and that's like a loser's game, right? Because you're hot for one week, and then next week you're not the cool place to go anymore, and you're out of business.
I think if you have a passion for something, I mean, for me with Nomad Capitalist, it was developed entirely organically. It was me blogging after running a number of businesses in the United States. And even back when I was doing the radio thing, I realized the potential of, I'm basically talking to people on the phone. I'm getting payments through credit card or through fax. People are sending me checks. I mean, that can be done. That can be handled remotely. I could maybe hire someone to check the mailbox, but I could be anywhere. I didn't go everywhere for a number of years, but I did start traveling more and more and more extensively. And I started eventually blogging about it, which was the beginning of Nomad Capitalist, never really knowing where it would go. And, I don't know if the average person finds the idea of being a dual citizen interesting. Or going offshore and saving on taxes. I mean, it's a little nerdy potentially, but I find it interesting. And so,
we love it, by the way. Just for the record, we love this stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you have to really be into it. And I think even in the garbage collection business, there are very interesting things that you can do in an unsexy business if you love business, rather than I just want to be the guy surrounded by beautiful women running a nightclub. I don't think that's sustainable.
Right. Well, that kind of leads to my next question. So, when was that big? Every entrepreneur says they kind of have that aha moment. Not everyone, but we're like, hey, this Nomad Capitalist thing, or this blog I'm running, this can actually be a business. When did that kind of go boo? And you're like, oh, I'm gonna do this now.
Well, I had already had the aha moment for I'm tired of paying 40% in taxes, right. And I had committed to leave the U.S. for good when I started the blog, and. I tried different things. The first thing I hosted a conference about a year after starting the blog, and we had Peter Schiff, and we had a lot of people in the industry, and I was doing what I often did, perhaps out of a little bit of lower self-esteem, which was let me invite everybody who are my future potential competitors or people that are around me and learn from them. When in reality, I think that's probably not the best idea in retrospect. But it was nice to meet Peter Schiff and others, and I did that because it wasn't really a money-making thing. It was just like I want to have a forum to gather people that I'd like to talk to myself and get paid in the process. Thereafter, we tried offering some different kind of products, books, what have you. People said they wanted that. But I think eventually what happened was we just got a large enough blog, eventually started doing YouTube, people started reaching out. And, at first I would talk to a few people for free. And I can specifically remember some of the places where I was doing these calls, because I took it so, as an Ohio guy, I took it so seriously. I've got a call with someone who's not paying me at all. I better make sure that I'm on time. Let me make sure I'm running around like a madman. Let me find the right place to sit down and be ready for the call. And people wouldn't show up, or they'd call and be like, I think you should do this. And they'd be like, yeah, all right, whatever. And I realized, very quickly, perhaps not for the first time, but I was reminded, nobody values that. And so I kind of figured out from there, what do I need to do if people keep reaching out to actually, help them? And it's evolved over the years, and I think it's constantly evolving like any business. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. So, you can't start writing the blog, and then, it works into a business. But when you're like, okay, this is how I have to market this thing. This is like, these are the people I have to go after. These are the people. How did that kind of evolve, or was it kind of a natural progression, for the clientele you're going after?
Well, I think it just happened where there's more and more and more people. And when you have more volume, you can be more selective. And I also think that the mindset changed as I became more comfortable. I think I've had a good handle on this. I mean, for 13 years, I've been going all around the world and meeting people and building my knowledge. I don't know that I've ever given myself enough credit, again, the Ohio piece, for what it is that I know. Even to this day, I continue to think, oh, maybe everyone doesn't have that talent. And I should maybe explain that more to the new person, because they don't have the same natural ability for that I do, and obviously I don't have the same natural abilities that they do. Yeah. And so, I think just doing more of this stuff has helped me. I've gotten multiple citizenships. I've talked about getting some of them. I've talked about my experiences, and so the more that I go out and do this, the more I talk about it, the more you attract people. And I think that a great phrase for anyone in business is, winners can tell other winners. Right. And so, obviously, anyone who's out there on the internet today sharing a message has people who don't like them, has people who are trying to rip them down. I think it's always been the case, but social media highlights it. But I think that if you're doing something, if you are actively providing a service and you're actively living what you offer, people who are successful see that. And so I think that the more we embody that, the more that the people at the lower end of the spectrum are just inherently repelled, and the people at the higher end of the spectrum, we've had people who are 9 and 10 figure net worths. We've had people who are celebrities. We obviously don't talk about these people because, we work in an area that people don't always want to be talked about. but I think that they've just inherently found us and resonated with our message, and resonated with the entrepreneurial nature of it. Obviously, a guy with a 10-figure net worth could hire the big four, and I think that most of them had, and they wanted a different perspective, a more entrepreneurial perspective. And so I think it's just being yourself and being organic and having self-confidence and living and being the embodiment of what it is that you sell.
How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.